Hello and welcome to Sleepy Science Story. This is your time to slow down, to let the world outside gently quiet itself, and to drift somewhere softer for a while. Tonight, we're going to explore the invisible world just beneath your skin. The immune system, a secret network of quiet defenders, microscopic librarians, and whispering watchers who keep you well without ever asking for thanks. I do hope this video isn't so interesting that it keeps you awake, but if it does, at least your dreams will be full of gentle antibodies and sleepy white blood cells. Before we begin, I'd love to know where in the world are you listening from tonight. Let me know in the comments, and feel free to gently tap the like button and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of slow science storytelling. It truly helps this sleepy little corner of the internet grow. Picture your body not as a machine with gears and wires, but as a living concert hall. Somewhere between breath and heartbeat, blood and bone, there is music playing. It is not loud, it does not rush, but it is constant. Every cell is part of this symphony, each with its own note, its own rhythm. And weaving gently between them is something quieter still, something that listens as much as it speaks, something that moves in silence but never truly sleeps. This is your immune system. It is not a thing you can touch or point to in a mirror. It does not have one single home or shape. It is a whisper network of cells and signals and decisions happening every moment, all across your body, all without a sound. Even now, as you lie there, listening, your immune system is moving. Somewhere in your throat, a white blood cell is brushing past a cell that once held a virus, checking to make sure the danger is gone. Somewhere in your skin, another is drifting like a leaf on a current, looking for the faint scent of something unfamiliar. And in the folds of your gut, which quietly houses more immune activity than you might imagine, tiny messengers are passing along news of what you've eaten today, deciding whether to be curious or cautious. Nothing is shouted, nothing is rushed. It is more like a murmured conversation between wise neighbors who've lived here for years and know the rhythm of the place. We often imagine the immune system as a kind of army. Soldiers marching, shields raised, battles fought. But that picture is loud and sharp, and the truth is more delicate. It is not an army, it is an orchestra. And not one with a conductor waving a baton, but one where every instrument listens for the others, adjusting in real time, responding with grace. A violin quiets when the flute swells. The drums soften when the piano speaks. In your body, the cells do the same. They sense each other's presence, their urgency, their signals, their history. And when something truly strange appears, something that doesn't belong, the volume rises just a little. The pace quickens. But even then, it is not chaos. It is coordination. It is the immune system doing what it has always done, calmly, beautifully, persistently. What makes it all the more astonishing is how invisible it is. You cannot feel a T-cell scanning your tissues. You cannot see a macrophage sweeping up debris. You don't notice the antibodies drifting like tiny letters through your blood, seeking out their perfect match. And yet, without them, a simple scrape would become dangerous. A breath of cold air could be the start of something serious. Every day, your body encounters things it's never seen before. Dust, spores, bits of bacteria, fragments of forgotten viruses left behind on door handles and passing sneezes. Most of these things come and go without you knowing, and that's the secret. The immune system doesn't exist to remind you that danger is everywhere. It exists to make sure you don't have to think about it at all. It works best when it goes unnoticed, when it can tune the violins and adjust the tempo, without ever stepping onto the stage. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need to be understood. It simply needs space to do what it does best. And every once in a while, when something stronger breaks through, when you feel the weight of a cold or the heaviness of a fever, it isn't because the orchestra has failed. It's because it has raised its voice just for a moment to be heard over the noise, and even then, it continues to play. So tonight, as you settle deeper beneath your blanket, know that something gentle is still moving through you, not out of fear, not in battle, but in rhythm. You are not a battleground. You are a concert hall, and the music, soft as it is always playing. At the edges of your body, where the world meets your skin, there are quiet watchers standing guard. You cannot see them, and you will never hear their footsteps, but they are there, always. Along the lining of your nose, behind your eyelids, tucked into the winding corridors of your throat, and resting in the folds of your intestines, they wait. Not with tension, not with urgency, but with a steady calm that comes from knowing their purpose. These are the sentinels of your immune system. The first to notice when something unfamiliar tries to pass the boundary between the world outside and the world within. They are not dramatic. They are not loud. They are often simply folded into the walls of your body like thoughtful wallpaper, listening for changes in tone. Picture a peaceful village that hasn't changed in years. The breeze is familiar, the footsteps well known, and then, one day, there is a sound that does not belong, a creak on the porch at the wrong hour, a rustle in the hedges where nothing usually grows. That is what these cells are listening for, the tiny inconsistencies, the quiet disruptions, the molecules that feel just a little too foreign, like a sentence spoken in a different language, even if the tone is polite. Some of these sentinels are fixed in place, part of the landscape, nestled into the corners where the world brushes up against you. Others drift nearby, slowly passing by like soft patrols along a river. They do not react to everything. That is part of their wisdom. If they responded to every breath of pollen or every grain of dust, you would never feel at peace. Their job is to learn the rhythm of your body, so they can gently notice when that rhythm falters, when a pattern is broken, when something is unfamiliar enough to raise a quiet hand. Sometimes they find nothing. A bit of dandelion fluff, a molecule from an almond cookie, harmless travelers. The sentinels make a note and move on, but sometimes they notice something else, something sharper, a fragment of virus clinging to a cell, a bacterium slipping through a wound, and then they begin to signal, not with words or alarms, but with molecules. Little chemical messages sent out like doves from a tower, flying inward to let the deeper cells know, come see, something is here, and all the while you may not feel a thing. Maybe a tickle in your throat, maybe a little fatigue you brush off as a long day, but beneath that quiet surface, the immune system has begun to move, not in panic, but in readiness, because the sentinels at your borders are not isolated. They are part of a great network that stretches from your skin to your bone marrow. The moment one of them raises a flag, others begin to wake. Messengers travel through the lymph, cells begin to prepare, like lanterns slowly lighting along a forest trail. You are protected not by walls, but by awareness. The immune system does not build fortresses. It builds relationships. It knows you. It listens to the language of your cells, and it listens just as carefully to the whispers of what does not belong. At your borders, in the places where your body meets the wide and wandering world, these watchers do not sleep. They do not worry. They simply wait. And when the moment comes, they pass the pass. Message along, so that deeper within, the story can unfold. So, tonight, as you lie in stillness, breathing gently through your nose, know that even now, there are quiet eyes watching at the gates. Not out of fear, not to keep the world away, but to make sure that what enters belongs, that the symphony inside you can continue to play its soft music, uninterrupted, and that your body, even as it rests, remains yours. Imagine for a moment a quiet forest, blanketed in early morning fog. The air is still, the trees are tall and unmoving, but something shifts in the underbrush, a faint ripple, a rustle that doesn't belong. The forest doesn't panic, it listens, and then, almost invisibly, shapes begin to stir, not hunters, not warriors, but careful scouts. This is what happens inside your body when the first signs of trouble are detected. The immune system doesn't rush in with sirens, it sends the first responders. They are not flashy. You wouldn't recognize them if you saw them under a microscope. But they are swift, not chaotic, not unthinking, but purposeful. These cells, part of what is known as the innate immune system, don't wait for long committee meetings or deep analysis. They act on instinct, on a kind of ancient memory passed down through generations of life. They've seen this kind of trouble before, in different forms, in different places, and they move toward it the way a droplet of ink moves through water, direct, unstoppable, quietly determined. Among the first to arrive are neutrophils. These cells are small and numerous, like tiny white stars scattered across your bloodstream. They live fast. They don't linger. Their job is not to ponder or to plan. Their job is to show up. When they sense danger, even the faintest whisper of bacteria slipping through a scrape or a virus starting its quiet invasion, they pour into the area like a gentle tide. They do not hesitate. And once there, they begin to work. They eat what does not belong. They surround it. They release chemicals that signal to other cells, calling for help. Their presence is not tidy. It is messy in the way a fire is messy, but also warming, also necessary. They burn bright, and then they fade. Many of them will not survive the encounter, and they know this in the way trees know how to bend with the wind. Their work is short, but meaningful. They leave behind signals, markers, pieces of information that the rest of the immune system will read later like footprints in the snow. Sometimes, what they find is small, a few invaders, a tiny breach, and they handle it on their own, like a neighbor picking up a fallen branch before it becomes a problem. Other times, they find something more, a threat that will need coordination. And when that happens, their signals grow stronger. More messengers are released. The bloodstream carries the message to lymph nodes, where other cells begin to stir. The entire immune system starts to wake up, slowly, smoothly, like lights flickering on in a quiet town. And yet, even at the height of their activity, you may feel only the faintest trace. A tickle in your nose, a sudden tiredness behind your eyes, maybe a little warmth in your joints. These are the signs that something ancient and wise has been set into motion. A system so well practiced it can handle most intrusions without ever disturbing your thoughts. The first responders do not linger to explain. They do not stay for applause. Once the danger is known, they hand off the baton and vanish like breath on a window pane. So, tonight, as you sink a little deeper into your pillow and feel the quiet weight of rest settling over you, know that somewhere within you there are cells that would rise at the first sign of need. They do not sleep. They do not wait for instructions. They respond with grace, with certainty, with a kind of quiet bravery that plays out inside your tissues every day. You may never meet them, but they know you, and that is enough. If you were to look inside your blood on an ordinary day, you'd find countless tiny wanderers. Most of them go about their tasks in silence, drifting like dandelion seeds caught in a breeze. But there is one kind that rarely rests, one kind that is always close to the edge of readiness. These are neutrophils, and though their name might sound sharp or mathematical, their role is beautifully simple. They are your immune system's spark, the ones who show up before anyone else, burn bright and fade quickly. They do not plan. They do not pause to consider long-term consequences or diplomatic responses. They are there to act. Picture them not as soldiers or guards, but more like drops of rain, hitting the first dry patch of earth during a summer storm. They respond to the world the moment it changes. They sense the smallest signals, the most delicate tremors of trouble, and they arrive without fanfare, without hesitation. When a splinter slides beneath your skin, or a scratch leaves just enough space for bacteria to tiptoe in, neutrophils are the first to step forward. They do not need to know the details. They recognize danger in the air itself. When they arrive, they do so in great numbers, hundreds, thousands. A flood of tiny lights moving into the tissue, surrounding the intruder and beginning their work. And their work, while essential, is not graceful. Neutrophils are not known for subtlety. They engulf what they can. They break down what they cannot swallow. They release reactive chemicals that help them do their job but often leave behind signs of wear. It's not pretty, but it is powerful. Like a cleanup crew that clears the debris but leaves a few scuff marks behind. The redness, the swelling, the warmth you sometimes feel when something is healing, those are their fingerprints. Neutrophils do not linger. Their presence is temporary by design. Once their job is done, or even before it is complete, many of them begin to break down. Their lives are short, sometimes just a few hours, but in that time they leave behind something more than damage control. They leave behind clues, molecular breadcrumbs. Their remains tell the next wave of immune cells what happened here, what they faced, what still needs doing. Their death is not the end of the effort. It is the transition to something more deliberate. Macrophages and other thoughtful cleaners will follow behind, sweeping away the neutrophils' remains, examining the scene, organizing the chaos into order. But none of it would happen without that first flash of energy, that first brave step into the unknown. Neutrophils do not ask questions. They trust the instinct etched into their form. They are small, but their courage is vast. They are brief, but their impact echoes. You may never feel them directly. They do their best work quietly. The aches and itches and fevers that sometimes follow them are not failures but consequences of care. A bit of dust disturbed during the cleaning. A reminder that something was not quite right and now is being made so again. And then they are gone, carried away by the gentle tides of your lymph and blood, leaving only a story behind. So tonight, as your breath slows and your eyes grow heavy, imagine these tiny sparks of life, moving quickly, glowing softly, disappearing before the dawn. Not every guardian wears armor. Some wear only time. Neutrophils arrive like a match in the dark. They flare, they protect, they vanish, and in their absence, healing begins. Sleep easily, knowing the light that once burned has made the path safer for what comes next. Long after the urgency fades, when the first wave of immune activity has burned itself out and the noise of reaction has quieted down, another presence begins to move. Not fast, not frenzied, but with the calm certainty of someone who knows they are always needed. These are the macrophages, and if neutrophils are sparks in the dark, macrophages are the slow, warm embers that remain. They are older in spirit, slower in pace, and thoughtful in everything they do. They wander through your tissues like monks in a cloister, inspecting what needs tending to. They are not loud, but they are thorough. Their name means big eater, which sounds a little dramatic, But all it really means is that they are very good at noticing what should no longer be there and quietly taking it away. If you could follow one through your body, you might see it pausing beside a damaged cell, considering its shape, listening to the chemical whispers it gives off. If the cell is beyond repair, the macrophage gently wraps around it and absorbs it into itself, breaking it down piece by piece. It does the same for old neutrophils, for stray proteins, for the quiet messes that living tissue leaves behind. It is not cleaning for appearance, it is cleaning to keep the peace. They are not strangers to conflict, but they do not seek it out. When something dangerous appears and the immune system begins to react, macrophages can step in, sending out their own signals, urging nearby cells to respond. But they are not often the first to arrive. They are the ones who stay. Long after the fever subsides, long after the swelling fades, they are still there, walking the same soft corridors, making sure everything is in order. Macrophages do more than clean. They remember. They are not memory cells in the traditional sense, but they are observant. When they digest something foreign, they take a small part of it and present it like a clue. They show it to other immune cells passing by, offering the body a chance to learn. "Look," they seem to say. "This is what trouble looked like. This is what we might see again." And sometimes they don't just patrol. Sometimes they settle down. In your lungs, in your liver, in your brain, there are macrophages that have made a home. They know the local rhythms. They understand the patterns of that specific place. They are not tourists. They are caretakers. They respond with the wisdom that only comes from time and attention. Unlike the fast-moving cells that flare and disappear, macrophages endure. Some live for years, quiet years, unseen years, but essential ones. Without them, the aftermath of every immune response would be chaos. Infections might end, but damage would linger. Signals would continue to fire. Confusion would spread. Macrophages prevent that, not with force but with presence. As you rest tonight, your own macrophages are likely at work. Maybe one is slowly patrolling your lungs, brushing past the last traces of a mild cold you didn't even know you had. Maybe another is checking a bruise on your leg, deciding that yes, the healing is going well. They don't need recognition. They are content in their quiet rhythm. You don't have to think about them. They prefer it that way. But if you do happen to wonder, just for a moment, what keeps your body clean and calm between storms, remember them. The gentle giants, the sweepers, the keepers of order in the unseen spaces. While you drift deeper into sleep, they continue their watch, steady as ever, moving slowly through the soft chambers of your body, one careful step at a time. Not every part of your immune system reacts with noise or numbers. Some prefer to work in silence. They move with the stillness of shadow, the calm of certainty. Among them are a group of cells with a name that sounds anything but gentle: natural killer cells. It may seem like an unfitting title for a sleep story, but like many names in science, it only tells part of the truth. These cells do not storm in or shout orders. They do not come with armies. They come with quiet judgment. Imagine a quiet village, familiar and peaceful. The same faces, the same rhythms, day after day. Then one morning, someone arrives who wears the right clothes, walks the same paths but does not quite belong. Their steps are just a little too careful. Their smile does not reach. Their eyes. This is how viruses sometimes hide. They take over the cells of your body and ask them to pretend everything is fine, to wear the right uniform, to wave the right flag. But natural killer cells are good at sensing when something is not quite right. They patrol slowly. They do not chase. They drift. Alone or in small groups, they pass by your cells, pausing here and there, like quiet inspectors reading the energy of a room. Every cell in your body displays a kind of identification, a tiny protein badge that says, "I am part of you. I am safe." But when a cell is taken over by a virus or begins to turn cancerous, that badge often disappears, or it looks faded, or it sends a signal that doesn't match the music of the body anymore. The natural killer cell does not argue. It does not ask for a second opinion. When it senses that something is deeply wrong, it acts. Gently, quickly, it releases a set of molecules that whisper to the unhealthy cell, telling it is time to step away, time to dissolve, time to protect the body by letting go. And just like that, the cell begins its quiet end. No drama, no chaos, just a clean decision. What is even more remarkable is that these natural killer cells do all this without needing to be trained. Other parts of your immune system must be taught what danger looks like. They need samples, memories, practice. But natural killer cells arrive already knowing, as if they carry an ancestral wisdom passed down through the bodies of every creature that has survived and healed and endured. They are not many, but they are everywhere. In your blood, in your lungs, in your liver and your uterus and your lymph, watching, listening, balancing. They do not speak in words, but their presence brings calm. You could think of them as guardians in a story, walking through the woods by lantern light, pausing only when the wind shifts, always ready but never rushed. Tonight, as you lie still beneath the weight of your blanket and the hush of your room, know that somewhere within you, these quiet cells are moving. They are not looking for trouble, only for balance, only for peace. When they find danger, they resolve it so gently that you may never know it happened, and then they move on, their task complete. They are not heroes in shining armor. They are more like the breeze that clears the air after a storm. Their work is necessary but not boastful. So sleep peacefully, knowing that even in the deepest stillness of night, there are those who walk softly through you, ensuring that everything remains as it should be, unseen, unsung, but always awake. If the bloodstream is your body's expressway, pulsing with the rhythm of each heartbeat, then the lymphatic system is something altogether quieter. It does not race, it wanders. It moves not with urgency but with grace, flowing slowly beneath the surface of your skin, through soft tissues and between organs, taking its time like a stream that never rushes no matter the weather. The lymph is not red like blood, it carries no oxygen, it drifts along in pale transparency like morning mist. It holds within it the stories of your body, tiny clues picked up from each place it passes. Bits of protein, fragments of bacteria, traces of old viruses, even wayward cells that need examining. It collects these things gently and carries them along winding paths toward quiet little way stations. The lymphatic system does not just move, it connects. Picture it as a forest trail hidden from sight where immune cells stroll and linger and exchange information. Unlike blood vessels, which are pressurized and pulsing, the lymph moves with a rhythm set by muscle and motion. When you walk, the lymph moves. When you breathe deeply, the flow continues. When you sleep, it slows down, but it never fully stops. It is part of the immune system's circulatory whisper, always listening, always learning. This network touches nearly every part of your body. It reaches into your fingertips and the tips of your toes. It surrounds your gut and your lungs and even your brain. Its vessels are narrow, its movements subtle. But within these soft channels, immune cells drift like clouds, keeping watch. T cells pass through, pausing to investigate the cargo. B cells travel as well, waiting to be called upon. Dendritic cells, which gather and present information, use the lymph as a kind of postal service, delivering messages from one part of the body to another. And along this journey, the lymph passes through nodes, small checkpoints where the pace slows even more. Inside these nodes, which we'll visit more closely soon, cells gather to compare notes, review evidence, and decide what needs to be done. If the body has encountered something unfamiliar or unkind, the lymph brings news of it to these centers. Nothing is overlooked, nothing is hurried. There is no heart for the lymph, no central pump. It moves in response to the small everyday shifts of the body, a stretch, a yawn, the gentle squeeze of muscle. Even your heartbeat nudges it along, though more like a breeze in the trees than a gust of wind. This means that the lymph flows most freely when the body is in motion, but still travels when it rests. It is never loud, just constant. What makes the lymphatic system so special is not only what it carries, but how quietly it does so. There are no flashing signals, no alarms. When it works well, you never notice it. It removes waste. It teaches immune cells. It keeps the peace. When it falters, you may feel sluggish or swollen, but most of the time, it simply does what it was always meant to do, out of sight, out of mind. And so, as you lie here now, listening to the slow rhythm of your own breath, imagine this gentle river winding through you, through your legs, your arms, your chest, your neck, flowing like a soft hum beneath your skin, carrying whispers of your body's inner life. It moves without needing thanks, and it will continue long, after you've drifted into sleep. The immune system does not always need to fight. Sometimes it just needs to listen, to carry, to connect. And that is what the lymphatic labyrinth does best. Tucked quietly along the winding paths of your lymphatic system are small bean-shaped structures that most people never think about. You may have felt one swell beneath your jaw when you were sick, or noticed a bit of tenderness under your arm when something was stirring within. These are your lymph nodes, though calling them nodes almost makes them sound mechanical. They are not cold switches or silent intersections. They are more like gathering places, like small, lamplit rooms where immune cells come together to listen and speak. Picture one now, deep within your neck or behind your knee. It is no larger than a pea, maybe even smaller, and yet inside there is constant motion, not rushing or panicked but purposeful. Lymph flows in, bringing news from the body. It arrives with fragments of what the body has touched or inhaled or absorbed. Every drop of lymph carries with it possibilities. Most of the time, these bits are familiar, harmless, quickly sorted and dismissed. But now and then, something arrives that makes the room grow quiet. Inside each lymph node are immune cells of many kinds: T cells, B cells, dendritic cells, and others who do not shout their names. They gather here not as soldiers preparing for battle, but as thinkers, observers, communicators. When the lymph brings something strange, something unfamiliar, the cells do not panic. They talk. They share. Dendritic cells present their findings, holding up pieces of viruses or bacteria like puzzle fragments. T cells examine them, considering whether they match anything in their long memories. B cells begin to prepare recipes, should they be needed. It is a quiet flurry of decision-making, gentle and deeply aware. There is a rhythm to it all, a pulse that is not felt like a heartbeat but flows more, like a shared breath among old friends. These nodes are not factories, they are libraries. Each one is filled with knowledge and curiosity, and the slow unfolding of immune understanding. They do not make snap judgments. They wait for the evidence to arrive. They ask the right questions. They listen before they speak. And once they decide, things begin to happen. If an invader is confirmed, signals are sent. B cells begin producing antibodies. T cells prepare to coordinate a response. New instructions are shared across the body's inner networks. It is like a decision reached in a council room that spreads out across the land, not shouted, simply known. These nodes are scattered across your body, in your neck, under your arms, along your spine, behind your knees, in your abdomen, each one handling its own quiet section of the map, each one attuned to a specific region of your internal world. They are not isolated. They're in constant quiet communication, like a series of lighthouses blinking softly to one another through the mist. It is easy to forget they are there, these small centers of thought and care. But they are among the most important parts of your immune system. They are where confusion becomes clarity, where mystery becomes memory. They are where your immune system thinks. As you settle into the hush of your night and let your thoughts slow their turning, imagine these little chambers inside you, small and patient, full of cells that listen more than they speak. They are not alarm bells, they are listening rooms, and tonight they are calmly, quietly keeping watch. You do not need to do anything. Just breathe. Just rest. The conversations within you will continue, gentle and wise, long after sleep takes you in its arms. Within the thoughtful hush of your lymph nodes, tucked among the other watchful cells, live the B cells. They are not known for rushing. They do not move with the urgency of the first responders or the precision of the killer. Cells. Their strength lies in what they know and in what they are quietly prepared to create. You could think of them as writers or archivists, always nearby with a pen in hand, waiting for the right moment to copy down something important. B cells do not go chasing after invaders. They stay in place, surrounded by murmured conversations and flowing lymph, and they listen. When a new intruder is presented, when a fragment of virus or a whisper of unfamiliar bacteria floats into the room, B cells begin to scan their inner shelves. Each one carries a vast collection of molecular blueprints, silent and waiting. Most of these patterns will never be used, but all are kept just in case, and every so often, one of them matches. The lines of the foreign protein fit perfectly into the folds of the B cell's memory, like an old key fitting into a lock long forgotten. When that happens, the B cell does not shout. It begins to prepare. With soft urgency, it makes copies of the blueprint it carries, turning it into antibodies. These antibodies are tiny, Y-shaped molecules, perfectly shaped to bind to the specific shape of the intruder. They do not destroy, they do not attack, they tag. They wrap themselves gently around the invader and say, "This does not belong." They mark it for others to see. They highlight it like a line in a book, drawing attention without breaking the page. Once released, antibodies travel through your blood and your lymph, drifting slowly, calmly. They do not need to search far. If the intruder is still present, they will find it. The match between an antibody and its target is so precise that even among millions of cells and molecules, they find each other again. And once they do, the rest of the immune system takes notice. The pieces begin to move faster. Phagocytes come to clean. Killer cells come to finish what was started. The antibodies do not fight, they illuminate. B cells do not always work alone. Sometimes, a helper T cell will come by, offering encouragement. If the body has already confirmed that the invader is dangerous, the helper cell gives the B cell a gentle nudge, and the recipe is copied with greater speed. Some B cells even transform, becoming long-lived memory cells, tucking their blueprints away for years or even decades, just in case that same shape ever returns. And that is the magic of it. Once a B cell has written a recipe for a specific intruder, it never really forgets. Even if the rest of the body has moved on, even if the fever has faded and the wounds have healed. Somewhere in your lymph, that recipe is still kept, like a carefully folded letter tucked into a drawer, ready to be opened the moment it is needed again. Tonight, as your body begins to rest, your B cells are still there, scattered in the quiet corners, holding their pages, checking their memories, listening to the flow of lymph. If there is nothing to do, they wait. If something appears, they begin to write. Their work is slow, their touch is light, but their role is essential, because without them, your body would need to learn the same lesson over and over again. So sleep gently, knowing that within you are scribes who write in silence, who store their knowledge in the smallest of spaces, and who send out soft messengers shaped to remember. They are not loud. They are not flashy, but they are wise, and they are always ready to put pen to page when the time comes. Now that the B cells have begun their quiet writing, a new kind of traveler enters the story. You cannot see them, and you will never feel them brush past you, but they are there all the same. Tiny Y-shaped molecules, so small you would need powerful magnification just to make out their outline, are now drifting through your body with a kind of slow elegance. These are antibodies. And though they do not speak, they carry a clear message. Each one begins as a blueprint, written carefully by a B cell after it has recognized a threat. But once created, antibodies are released into the bloodstream, and the lymph like soft keys on a breeze. Their job is not to fight with force. They are not weapons in the usual sense. They are identifiers, seekers, gentle guides. Each antibody has a shape made to fit only one thing, as if the immune system were trying to match a lock to a very specific key. If you were to follow one through your bloodstream, you might be surprised by how passive it seems. It does not hunt. It does not search with urgency. It simply floats, drifting through the currents of your inner world. And when it encounters its match, it binds, softly, perfectly, as if it had been waiting for that moment all along. This binding does not destroy the invader on its own. What it does is mark it. It places a kind of flag, saying, "This is foreign. This is what does not belong." Other immune cells, like macrophages or natural killers, see this signal and begin to act. In this way, antibodies are like tiny spotlights in the fog, helping others see what they might have missed. They shine their light on the problem, then let others decide how to respond. Some antibodies do even more. Some block viruses from entering cells by attaching themselves right where the virus needs to connect. Others clump invaders together, making it easier for cleanup crews to find them. A few even signal for molecules in the blood to break down the intruders directly. Each function depends on the shape of the antibody and the nature of the threat, but at their heart, all antibodies share the same quiet mission: to notice, to bind, to remember. They are not permanent. Like leaves on a river, they will eventually break down and be swept away, but as long as the B cells continue to write, new antibodies will take their place. And if the same invader returns months or even years later, memory B cells will recognize it instantly, and the same soft keys will be produced again, almost as if they never left. What is most extraordinary is how many kinds of antibodies your body can make, millions, perhaps more, each one shaped for something different. Most will never be used. Some are created and fade away without ever finding their match. But they are kept, just in case, because the world outside your skin is always changing, and your body likes to be ready. So tonight, while you rest beneath your blankets and the air around you cools, there are antibodies gliding through your bloodstream, keeping watch in their own quiet way. They do not need attention. They do not need thanks. They are the silent notes of a song written long ago, still being played in the background of your being. Let your body hum with that music. Let your breath slow. Because these tiny keys are turning quietly through your veins, unlocking clarity, signaling peace, and gently guiding the immune system through the fog. Not every immune cell is born knowing what to do. Some must learn, and before they can be trusted with the responsibility of protecting you, they are sent to school. Not a school of chalkboards and textbooks, but a soft, spongy place tucked behind your breastbone, the thymus. For most people, the thymus fades into the background after childhood, shrinking and retreating quietly as the years go by. But during your early life, it plays a role so precise and so powerful that everything your immune system does afterward depends on it. Inside the thymus, young immune cells arrive like students with wide eyes. These are not yet the mature T cells you hear about. They are early versions, raw and untested, waiting to discover whether they are ready. What they are taught here is one simple idea, but it takes time to understand. They must learn what is you and what is not. The immune system cannot afford to be mistaken about this. A cell that attacks something foreign is doing its job. A cell that attacks the body itself is a mistake that can lead to confusion and harm. So the thymus begins its quiet instruction. It exposes these young cells to a wide range of the body's own proteins, gently showing them the language of self. Over and over, the cells are tested. Can they recognize the difference between friend and stranger? Can they understand what is familiar and what does not belong? Most of them cannot. The thymus is patient but strict. Many cells are dismissed, absorbed back into the body without ever being released. Only the ones who pass this quiet exam are allowed to continue. The ones who remain become T cells. Some will one day coordinate the entire immune response, like calm voices in a crowded room. Others will go on to destroy infected cells directly, acting with precision but never with noise. But even before they are given these roles, they all carry something shared. A deep understanding of what your body is, a memory of the self, a recognition of home. This is not a skill that can be rushed. T cells spend days, sometimes weeks, in the thymus, drifting through its soft chambers, adjusting, learning, reshaping themselves as needed, and all the while, the body waits. It is a slow process, but a necessary one. Because the T cells who emerge from the thymus are more than just defenders. They are decision makers. They are the ones who will walk your inner world and determine whether what they see is right or wrong. Once they leave the thymus, these cells do not settle in one place. They travel through the blood and the lymph, visiting the nodes and tissues, listening for signals. They recognize danger not by the shape of a pathogen alone, but by the way it disrupts the order they once learned. If a virus hides inside one of your cells, the T cell knows. If a cell changes in a way that feels unfamiliar, the T cell pauses, remembers, and begins to act. But they do not act alone. They are part of a much larger conversation, a network of cells and messages and memories that must agree before any real decision is made. Still, their presence is vital. Without them, the immune system would be full of strength but without direction. With them, it becomes a story with meaning, one written carefully and remembered well. So as you lie here now, wrapped in your blanket and the quiet of your own breath, know that within you there are T cells moving with certainty, shaped by the quiet wisdom of a place you have long since forgotten. They carry the memory of what it means to be you, and they will never stop listening for anything that does not belong. Once the T cells have left the quiet halls of the thymus, they scatter throughout the body like thoughtful travelers. Each one carries with it a sense of recognition, a memory of what belongs and what does not. But among them, There is a particular kind that does not rush to destroy or engulf. It does not act first. It listens, it considers, and when the moment comes, it begins to guide. These are the helper T cells. The name may sound modest, almost simple, but what they do is anything but. Imagine the immune system as a great meeting hall. The noise of communication rises and falls, cells passing messages, exchanging fragments of information, trying to decide what should happen next. It could easily become a blur, chaotic and unsure. But standing in the center, calm and attentive, is a cell who listens to all sides and gently encourages the next step. This is the helper T cell. It does not control with force. It coordinates with trust. When a dendritic cell arrives in a lymph node carrying a fragment of a virus or bacterium, it is the helper T cell who stops to look. It examines the shape of the invader and quietly signals whether it is something that should concern the body. If it agrees that the threat is real, it reaches out to others nearby. To B cells, it gives encouragement, a soft signal to begin copying their antibody recipe. To cytotoxic T cells, it sends a different kind of message, one that prepares them to find and destroy infected cells. Every action it takes is careful and deliberate. Nothing is rushed, nothing is wasted. What makes these cells so special is not only their intelligence, but their restraint. They could push everything forward at once, turning a small infection into a full-blown alarm. But they do not. They know that the immune system must be precise. Too little reaction, and danger slips by unnoticed. Too much, and the body begins to suffer its own protection. So, the helper T cell walks that narrow path, always balancing, always adjusting, like a conductor bringing each part of an orchestra into harmony. There are different kinds of helper T cells, each tuned to a slightly different frequency of response. Some prefer to help against viruses, others specialize in parasites or bacteria. A few focus on calming things down after the work is done. Each one plays its part like a note in a larger melody, and none of them act without a reason. They are shaped by what they see, by the messages they receive, by the conditions around them. Their strength is in their flexibility, their ability to guide without overpowering. You may never feel them at work. Their movements are subtle. Their messages are molecules so small you would never notice their presence. But without them, the immune system would be a group of solo players without a rhythm to follow. The body would respond too slowly or too wildly, and the healing would never find its pace. It is the helper T cells who offer that rhythm, not by shouting but by suggesting, not by demanding but by nudging gently in the right direction. So, as you rest tonight, with your breath rising and falling in the stillness, remember that somewhere within you, these cells are listening. They are taking in the stories of your body, the whispers of danger or peace, and guiding the next steps with quiet confidence. Their power lies not in action, but in wisdom. And that wisdom flows softly, like a steady pulse beneath your skin, keeping everything just as it should be. Let that comfort settle into your bones. You are not only protected, you are guided, with patience, with care, with peace. There are moments in the life of your body when decisions must be made, not the kind you think about or feel, but quiet, cellular decisions that happen beneath the surface. Sometimes, a cell becomes infected. A virus slips inside and begins its silent work, turning the cell into something unfamiliar. On the outside, everything may still appear calm, but on the inside, something is wrong. That is when the cytotoxic T cells arrive. Their name may sound sharp, cytotoxic, as if they were filled with anger or aggression, But in truth, these cells are not wild or reckless. They are measured. They are careful. They are precise. If the helper T cells are the ones who guide and organize, then the cytotoxic T cells are the ones who act when there is no other choice. They do not rush into tissues without cause. They are summoned by signals, called by the shape of a problem that has already been quietly confirmed. When they arrive, they do not create panic. They move slowly, listening to the messages from other cells. They approach the infected or damaged cell, and then, like a key sliding into a lock, they bind to it. They do not ask it to explain itself. They already know the infected cell has changed its outer signals, revealing small pieces of the virus inside. To the cytotoxic T cell, these changes are unmistakable. A language that says, "I am no longer safe." And so, gently, the cytotoxic T cell releases its instructions. It does not tear or crush. Instead, it triggers a sequence inside the infected cell itself. A kind of self-cleaning, a final bow. The cell begins to dismantle itself piece by piece in a process so orderly it almost resembles grace. This is not violence. It is resolution. A way for the body to remove danger without chaos. Quiet, effective, necessary. These T cells do not linger afterward. They do not gloat or dwell. Once their task is done, they move on, seeking the next signal, the next cell that has quietly changed. Sometimes there is only one, sometimes there are many, but they respond the same way each time, calmly, dispassionately, with the knowledge that their work protects the whole. What makes them extraordinary is not just their skill, but their restraint. They are trained in the thymus to know the difference between self and not self. They are reminded again and again what the body looks like in its healthy form. So when they act, it is not from confusion. It is from deep recognition. And when they do not act, it is because they are sure no harm is needed. Their numbers are not overwhelming. The immune system does not flood the body with these cells unless it must. They are more like a small team of watchful sentinels, spread quietly through the tissues, always ready, never reckless. They work in concert with the rest of the immune system. They follow its lead, but they never forget their role. Tonight, somewhere inside you, one of these cells might be moving. Perhaps it has already passed through your lungs or your liver, pausing now and then to examine a cell more closely. Most of what it sees will be familiar. Most of what it sees will be safe. But if something has changed, if a quiet alarm has been sounded, it will respond with the same care it always does. So let yourself rest, knowing that even at the smallest level, there is a sense of order. Your body does not just fight, it chooses, it considers, it resolves, and in that quiet resolution there is peace, the kind of peace that does not need to be felt to be real, the kind of peace that lets you fall asleep and stay asleep without worry, because what needs to be done is being done, with calm, with clarity, with care. Not everything your immune system learns is forgotten. Some lessons are kept, tucked away in the quiet corners of your body, waiting patiently in case they are ever needed again. These are your memory, cells. They do not rush, they do not seek attention, but they remember. Long after a fever has faded and the tiredness has passed, long after your body has healed and your thoughts have moved on, these cells still hold the story of what happened. A cellular memory, soft and enduring. Imagine a vast library, one with no noise and no urgency. Inside, there are shelves filled with journals, each one marked with a different encounter. This was the virus from the spring you spent sneezing on the couch. This was the bacteria from a scraped knee when you were young. This was the shape of something your body met once, just briefly, but recognized all the same. Memory cells are the quiet librarians of this immune library. They do not forget, but they also do not interrupt. They wait, and they watch. When your body first encounters something foreign, the immune system takes time to respond. It must recognize the shape, decide what to do, coordinate its defenses. But if that same invader returns again, the story changes. Memory cells recognize it immediately. There is no need for discussion, no need for searching. The recipe is already written. The response begins almost at once. B cells that once worked hard to write the perfect antibody now rest, knowing their memory versions are ready. T cells that spent long days in the thymus, learning what to trust and what to question, have left behind echoes of that learning in these memory forms. And so, what once took days now happens in hours. Sometimes even minutes. You may not even feel sick. A small skirmish takes place somewhere inside you, handled quickly by cells that have seen it all before. These memory cells can last for years. Some will remain with you for life. They are not fragile. They move through your lymph and your tissues with a kind of quiet confidence. Their work is not to act, but to be prepared. You could think of them as guardians who have stepped back from the front lines, but still keep their armor polished, just in case. Vaccines work by calling these cells into being. They introduce a harmless version of a virus or a bacterial fragment, just enough to teach the immune system the shape of the potential threat. The body learns, memory cells form, and even though the true danger never arrives, the immune system is now ready. That is the beauty of memory. It allows the body to protect without suffering, to respond without delay. Sometimes, these memories fade. The body lets go of what it believes is no longer needed. Sometimes, the intruder changes its shape, hoping not to be recognized. But even then, memory cells help. They do not need a perfect match to understand that something is familiar. They send signals, guiding the immune system more quickly to the right place. As you drift off tonight, wrapped in the quiet rhythm of your breath, know that these memory cells are within you, not chasing, not searching, but simply holding what has been learned. They are the calm after the storm, the candle still burning long after the power returns. They do not speak unless spoken to, but when the moment comes, they will rise and act with certainty born of experience. Rest in that certainty. Your immune system is not just a system of reaction, it is a place of learning, of reflection, of wisdom, carried forward cell by cell, night after night, as you sleep. Fever often arrives like an unwelcome guest. It brings a heavy head, a quiet ache behind the eyes, a warmth that feels both comforting and unsettling. Your skin flushes while your limbs grow cold. You lie still and wonder why your body feels the way it does. But fever is not a mistake. It is not a sign of weakness. It is a quiet strategy, carefully chosen by your immune system, a way of creating just the right conditions for healing to begin. When your body senses a threat, when a virus or bacteria begins to settle in where it does not belong, the immune system responds not only with cells and signals, but with temperature. It sends messages to a part of the brain known as the hypothalamus, which acts as your internal thermostat. And rather than simply telling the immune cells what to do, the body does something bolder. It turns up the heat. At first, this may feel strange. You may shiver as your body begins to shift. Your muscles contract to generate warmth. Your skin pulls blood inward to protect the core. All of this happens not because you are cold, but because your set point has changed. Your body now believes it must be warmer in order to help, and in its quiet wisdom, it is often right. Raising the temperature even slightly helps the immune system work faster. The cells move more quickly, the signals pass more clearly. Some pathogens do not grow well in warmer conditions, and a mild fever can slow them down, giving your defenses time to organize. It is not a fire to burn everything away. It is more like a careful simmer, a controlled heat meant to support the work already happening. The warmth also creates an environment that encourages repair. Proteins unfold and refold in new ways. Blood flows a little differently, carrying immune cells to the places they are most needed. Your body shifts into a healing rhythm, one that favors rest and stillness. And so, you lie down. You close your eyes. You drink water and sleep, not because you are weak, but because your body is quietly asking you to help it focus. Fever is not always comfortable, and it can sometimes feel frightening. But in most cases, it is not a danger. It is a sign that your body is awake to what is happening, that it has noticed, that it is adjusting. Of course, like any tool, fever must be balanced. Too high for too long can become harmful, but for most people, most of the time, a mild to moderate fever is not an enemy. It is a decision, a quiet recalibration. And just as it begins gently, it fades in the same way. The body reaches a point where it no longer needs the extra warmth. The immune system has gained ground, the intruder has been cleared, and so the messages change. The hypothalamus lowers the set point again. You sweat, you cool, you sigh in relief. But beneath that relief is something deeper. Your immune system has done its work, and your body has returned to balance. Tonight, as you lie under your blanket, your temperature steady and your breathing calm, remember that even something as simple as warmth has meaning. Your body holds centuries of memory, silent wisdom carried forward through every fever and every recovery. It knows when to rise and when to rest. It knows when to hold on and when to let go. Let that knowing wrap around you like a second blanket. You are not just resting, you are healing. You are trusting the rhythm that lives beneath your skin. The rhythm that knows how to burn just brightly enough to keep you safe, and then quietly cool again when the danger has passed. As the world grows quiet and your thoughts begin to soften, something remarkable begins to happen inside you. While your eyes close and your limbs grow heavy, while your mind releases its hold on the day, your immune system is just beginning its next chapter. It does not sleep when you do. In fact, in many ways, it becomes even more focused, more deliberate, more patient. Your body may be still, but the work of healing and protecting never truly stops. Sleep is not simply a pause. It is a time of recalibration. While you drift further into the slower waves of rest, your body begins to shift into a deeper rhythm. Hormones change, muscles relax, breathing slows. And within this stillness, your immune system steps forward in a quieter, more thoughtful way. The cells that moved so quickly during the day now slow their pace, inspecting rather than chasing, gathering rather than reacting. At night, your immune system takes the opportunity to reflect. Cells that were exposed to unfamiliar molecules during the day now carry those findings into lymph nodes where others wait to listen. It is a time of conversation, of quiet analysis. What was seen? What should be remembered? What must be cleared away? There is no rush. The body is not busy with movement or food or focus, so the immune system uses the stillness. Certain immune responses are stronger at night. Inflammatory signals become more focused. Repair work begins in earnest. Damaged tissues are swept clean, and the slow rebuilding begins. The night is not idle. It is a garden tended in the dark, carefully and without noise. The same energy you once spent thinking and walking and working is now being used for restoration. That ache in your shoulder, that mild scratch in your throat, all of it is being considered, and where help is needed, help is sent. Cytokines, which are the messengers of your immune system, are especially active during sleep. They guide the cells, deliver instructions, help maintain order. These molecules also speak to your brain, which is why illness can make you sleepy. It is your immune system asking for time. Time to work without distraction, time to tend to what matters most. Even memories formed by your immune system are strengthened during sleep. The lessons learned from a virus or a vaccine are written more clearly in the quiet hours. B cells and T cells sharpen their understanding, filing away what they have seen so they can respond more quickly in the future. Sleep becomes a kind of classroom where experiences are transformed into lasting knowledge. The relationship between sleep and immunity is not just useful, it is essential. Without enough rest, the immune system becomes sluggish. It begins to forget. It misreads signals. It may become slow to respond or too quick to overreact. But when sleep is steady and deep, the immune system finds its balance again. It remembers how to care for you in the way it always intended to. So as you lie there now, with your breath moving gently and your body growing heavier by the minute, know that inside you, the night shift has begun. It is calm. It is wise. It is already moving through your tissues like soft footsteps on a forest path, clearing what needs to be cleared, repairing what needs repair, remembering what must be remembered. You do not need to do anything. No effort, no thought. Just this quiet trust in your own biology. Sleep does not leave you undefended. It places you in the hands of something older, slower, and deeply kind. And as your thoughts continue to drift like leaves on a stream, your immune system will be there, gently at work beneath the surface, steady as moonlight. Some signals in the body are bold, a fever, a cough, a wound closing over, but others are quieter, slower, more patient in their effect. Stress is one of these. It begins not with a shout but with a whisper, a shift in pressure deep within the body, and slowly, sometimes without us realizing, it begins to change the way the immune system listens. When your body perceives stress, whether from worry or noise or overwork, it turns to its messengers. Chief among them is cortisol, a hormone released from the adrenal glands perched quietly above your kidneys. Cortisol is not a villain. It is helpful in the right moments. It prepares the body for challenges. It sharpens awareness and gives a boost of energy. But it also tells the immune system to step back. During short bursts of stress, this can be useful. If you are running from danger or solving a problem that needs quick thinking, it makes sense for the body to quiet the inflammation, to reduce immune activity so energy can be spent elsewhere. But the immune system listens very closely, and if the cortisol remains high for too long, the message becomes distorted. Day after day of stress keeps the immune system in a state of restraint. It becomes cautious. It begins to miss things. Cells that should be attentive grow quiet. The signals that once coordinated a clean response to small invaders begin to scatter. The immune system does not shut down completely. It does not stop protecting, but it becomes tired, confused, slow to wake up, and slow to settle down. Inflammation, which is usually well controlled, can begin to drift out of balance. Some parts of the immune system become overactive, while others fall behind. The clear choreography becomes blurred, and over time, this can lead to strange echoes in the body. A lingering cold, a bruise that takes longer to fade, a feeling of heaviness that seems to have no name. Even the delicate balance of memory can be affected. Stress changes how the immune system remembers past threats. It may forget what it once knew, or overreact to something familiar. Like a librarian sorting books in the dark, it still tries to do its job, but the shelves begin to look disordered. The relationship between stress and immunity is not a punishment. It is simply a reflection. The immune system listens not only to the outside world, but to the inner one as well. When you are calm, it becomes calm. When you are in distress, it adapts, always listening, always responding, always trying to match your needs, even when those needs are unclear. That is why sleep, laughter, and time spent without urgency are not luxuries. They are signals too. They tell the body it is safe to slow down, that there is time to repair, that vigilance can soften. These states allow cortisol to drop, inflammation to settle, and immune cells to find their rhythm again. Like a group of musicians returning to the same page after being pulled in too many directions. So as you lie here now, in the gentle stillness of your evening, know that rest itself is a message. It tells your immune system that it is allowed to return to its full awareness, that the alarms can quiet, that the rhythm can return to something steady. Even now, your cortisol may be fading, your immune cells lifting their heads again, returning to their work with more focus and peace. You do not need to solve anything tonight. Let that thought slip away like steam on a window. Your body knows how to recover, not only from sickness but from the pressure of being constantly alert. It just needs space. And in the quiet between your thoughts, that space has already begun to open. Sometimes the immune system tries too hard. It responds to something harmless with the same urgency it would give to a real threat. A piece of pollen floating on a spring breeze, a trace of peanut protein, the fur of a cat brushing softly against your sleeve. None of these things are dangerous in themselves, yet for some people, the immune system sounds the alarm anyway. Not because it is careless, but because it is too careful. This is what we call an allergy, not a flaw, but a misinterpretation. The immune system was designed to be cautious. It watches closely, it remembers deeply, and when it finds something unfamiliar, it tries to protect you. Most of the time, it knows what is harmful and what can be ignored. But in the case of allergies, something gets lost in translation. The immune system encounters a harmless substance and mistakes it for something dangerous. It prepares for battle, and suddenly, the peaceful breath of air, the sip of milk, the friendly dog's greeting becomes the beginning of a reaction. When this happens, your immune system does not hold back. It releases histamines and other chemicals meant to defend you. Blood vessels expand, causing redness. Mucous membranes swell, leading to sneezes and runny noses. Sometimes the skin reacts with hives or itching. All of these things are part of a response that was designed for infections and parasites. But now, they are being used in the wrong context. It is like a fire brigade rushing into a room where someone only lit a candle. The intentions are pure, the urgency is real, but the situation does not call for it. The allergy is not about danger. It is about perception. The immune system believes it is saving you from harm, and so it does. Everything it knows how to do to clear the intruder away. It is a kind of love misplaced. In more serious allergies, like anaphylaxis, the response becomes widespread. The immune system signals every part of the body to take action. Blood pressure drops, airways tighten. This is not because the immune system is being reckless. It is because it is trying, in its own way, to protect you from something it cannot properly understand. And in doing so, it creates the very danger it meant to prevent. There are reasons this happens, but they are not always clear. Sometimes it is genetics. Sometimes it is exposure at a particular time or in a particular way. Sometimes it is simply mystery. The immune system, like all great protectors, has its complexities, and sometimes it learns the wrong lesson. But even in allergies, there is possibility. treatments can help retrain the immune system, therapies can slowly introduce the allergen in tiny, careful doses, asking the body to reconsider, is this really something to fear? Over time, some immune systems say no. They begin to unlearn the overreaction. The fire brigade learns to pause before rushing in, and even when allergies remain, the body adapts. We find ways to coexist with our immune system's caution. We avoid the things it does not understand. We carry reminders for emergencies. We live with the knowledge that protection sometimes comes dressed as confusion. Tonight, as you rest and your breathing settles into its evening rhythm, your immune system is once again listening, watching for danger, remembering what it believes to be true. And while some of those truths may be imperfect, the care behind them is real. You are being watched over, not with indifference, but with a fierce loyalty that sometimes simply needs guidance. Let your body rest in that loyalty. Even its overreactions are born of devotion. You are not broken. You are not unsafe. You are simply complex. And your immune system, in all its wisdom and its worry, is doing its best to keep you whole. The immune system is meant to know you. That is its first lesson. It learns the shape of your cells, the patterns in your proteins, the quiet language of your body that no outsider could ever truly speak. And most of the time, it remembers. It holds this knowledge close and uses it to guide every response, every decision. But sometimes, that memory begins to blur. A mistake is made. And the immune system, so dedicated to your protection, turns inward. This is autoimmunity. It is not rebellion. It is not betrayal. It is confusion. The immune system loses track of where the boundary lies between self and not self. It looks at your own tissues and sees something unfamiliar, something suspicious, a liver cell that seems off, a joint lining that feels just a little too different, a skin cell it no longer recognizes, and so it reacts, not with cruelty, but with the same determined care it would show for any threat. What follows is often slow. It can begin with fatigue, with subtle inflammation, with a whisper of discomfort that fades and returns. The immune system sends its cells to places they should not be. It releases messages that call in help for a battle that does not need to be fought. The body begins to work against itself, not in anger, but in deep, quiet error. The reasons this happens are not always clear. In some people, it begins after an infection, as if the immune system remembers the virus too well and keeps looking for it long after it is gone. In others, it may be tied to genetics, to long threads of family history that whisper the same mistaken warnings through generations. And for many, it arrives with no clear cause at all, only the slow realization that something inside is working harder than it should. Each autoimmune condition tells its own story. Some affect a single organ, others stretch across systems, but all share the same root. The immune system is trying to protect, but it has lost its map. It follows signals that were once helpful but no longer serve the truth. It moves with purpose but in the wrong direction. And yet even here, there is hope. The immune system is not rigid. It can be guided. Medications and therapies can calm its confusion, redirect its efforts, remind it gently of the difference between harm and home. It is a system of memory, yes, but also of learning. And sometimes, with patience and care, it begins to learn again. Living with autoimmunity is often quiet. It is a life of subtle adjustments, of learning your rhythms and recognizing the early signs. It is not a failure of the body. It is a sign of how powerful your immune system truly is, how dedicated it remains, even when it misunderstands. The very strength that makes it capable of protecting you also makes its confusion more profound. So tonight, as your body begins its slow descent into sleep and the day releases its hold on your thoughts, know that even if your immune system has stumbled in its understanding, it is still acting out of care. Its confusion is not your fault. It does not mean you are broken. It means that something so ancient and wise still needs a little help in remembering who you are. Let your breath rise and fall like a tide returning to shore. Let your body rest in the knowledge that healing is possible, even when the path winds inward. Even when the challenge comes not from the outside world, but from within, there is room for peace. There is room for clarity. And your immune system, though lost at times, still walks with you through the dark, searching for home. There is a quiet brilliance in the way your immune system learns. It does not need lectures or books. It does not need to be told what to believe. It needs experience. It needs a pattern to recognize, a shape to remember. But what if that lesson could be taught without danger? What if your body could prepare for an illness it may never face, and do so gently, with time to study and space to practice? This is what a vaccine offers: a rehearsal, a safe introduction, a preview of something real. When you receive a vaccine, what enters your body is not the full force of a virus or a living threat. It is a fragment, a softened version. Sometimes it is just a single protein. Sometimes it is a tiny message wrapped in a droplet of fat. Sometimes it is a quiet visitor designed to mimic a virus without ever becoming one. The immune system does not need the whole story. It only needs a page or two, just enough to begin the process of recognition. Once that small signal enters your body, the immune system does what it always does. It listens, it analyzes, it sends its scouts to collect the information. Cells pass along the message like a soft whisper through the lymphatic paths. Dendritic cells carry fragments to the lymph nodes, where T cells and B cells begin to gather. They study the shapes, they compare them to what they already know, and when they find no match, they begin to prepare. B cells begin crafting new antibodies, writing fresh recipes for proteins they have never seen before. T cells start planning, readying themselves in case this invader ever returns. Some of them become memory cells. They fold the information away carefully, storing it in places where it can be retrieved quickly. All of this happens without harm, without illness, without the immune system ever facing a real battle. It is a kind of learning built on trust. The next time your body sees the actual virus or bacteria, it will not be caught off guard. The immune cells will recognize it immediately. The antibodies will already be there, drifting quietly through the bloodstream. The memory cells will unfold their stored instructions and begin responding without delay. The entire system will move faster and more precisely because the work has already been done. Vaccines do not make your immune system stronger. They make it wiser. They let it see the shape of danger without feeling the full weight. They give it time to prepare, so that if the day comes when it must act, it can do so calmly and effectively. The body does not need to suffer to grow strong. Sometimes it just needs to be shown the path. And while this process is rooted in science, there is something deeply human in it too. It is a reminder that protection does not have to come from hardship, that we can learn without pain, that we can prepare without fear. The immune system, so often thought of as reactive, is also deeply thoughtful. It responds, yes, but it also remembers. As you settle into rest tonight, maybe you received a vaccine long ago. Maybe your memory cells are still holding on to that information. Maybe they have been waiting all this time, just in case. You may never need them, but they are ready. Not with panic, not with confusion, but with a quiet confidence earned in advance. Let yourself drift deeper, knowing that even in sleep your body holds the lessons it has learned. You are not only protected by strength, but by preparation. Your immune system is not just a shield, it is a student, and tonight it sleeps peacefully with what it knows. Inside your body lives a world you cannot see, a world made not of cells like your own, but of tiny visitors who arrived long ago and stayed. These are not intruders, they are not invaders, they are companions. You carry them with you every day, in your gut, on your skin, in the soft creases behind your ears, and the quiet folds of your lungs. They are the microbiome, a community of microbes so vast that they outnumber your own human cells, and yet they do not overpower you. They live in balance, a quiet council of bacteria, fungi, and viruses that have learned to call you home. The immune system knows they are there. It does not ignore them. It does not fight them. It listens, it learns, it observes them the way you might observe a neighbor you see each day. At first, unsure, but over time, familiar, and, eventually, trusted. These microbes help teach the immune system how to behave. When you are young, they show your cells what is safe. They help your immune system practice. This one is harmless. That one is useful. There is no need to react. In this way, your microbiome becomes not just a collection of life, but a living guidebook for your immune system. It helps train your body not to overreact, not to attack what does not need attacking. It shows your immune system the difference between true danger and everyday life. A lesson in tolerance, a lesson in peace. Most of the microbiome lives in your digestive tract. In the winding tunnels of your intestines, trillions of microbes work with quiet precision. They help digest food, break down fiber, and release nutrients your body would not otherwise access. But even more than that, they speak to the immune system every day. Through chemicals and signals, through presence and absence, they remind your body of balance, of what normal feels like. When that balance is disturbed, the immune system notices. If a helpful species of bacteria disappears, if a newcomer begins to grow too quickly, your immune system may grow cautious. Inflammation rises, immune cells drift closer. Not out of anger, but out of concern. This is not the normal rhythm. Something has changed. And so, the body responds. Modern life can sometimes make that balance harder to maintain. Diet, antibiotics, stress, sleep, and so many other small things affect the microbiome, but it is also resilient. Given time and care and quiet nourishment, it begins to restore itself. The immune system, ever watchful, takes note of the return, and the peace within begins again. It is a partnership, this relationship between you and the microbes that live alongside you. A quiet collaboration. You give them shelter and warmth and food. They give you guidance and balance and insight. Neither side speaks in words, but the conversation is constant. Tonight, while you sleep, that conversation continues. The microbes in your gut are not sleeping. They are moving slowly through the darkness, responding to what you ate, adjusting their numbers, sending signals to your immune cells. And those cells are listening, watching, remembering what has changed and what has stayed the same. There is something comforting in that. The idea that even when all is still, when your body is at rest and your mind has drifted away, life continues quietly inside you. Not just yours, but the lives of your smallest companions, keeping the peace in the deepest parts of you. So let your thoughts fall softly into that quiet now. Your body is not alone. It is a home. And within that home is a council of unseen friends, helping your immune system stay steady, reminding it that protection does not always come from defense. Sometimes it comes from understanding, from coexistence, from calm. When something inside you is hurt or threatened, your body does not sit in silence. It gathers its strength and speaks in the language of warmth and swelling and tenderness. This language is called inflammation. It is not a mistake. It is not always something to fear. It is how the immune system calls attention to a problem and begins the slow and thoughtful work of repair. Imagine a quiet forest after a small fire has passed through. The ground is blackened in places. The air carries the scent of smoke. But there is no panic. The fire was not wild. It was intentional. It burned away what needed clearing. It made room for new things to grow. Inflammation can feel like that. It brings heat. It brings change. But it is a process with purpose. When your body detects a threat or an injury, immune cells gather at the site. They release small molecules that expand the nearby blood vessels. More blood flows in, more warmth, more immune cells. The area becomes red or puffy or sore. These are the visible signs of inflammation. They may feel uncomfortable, but they are signals of effort, of activity, of attention. Underneath the surface, neutrophils and macrophages begin to clear debris. They remove broken cells and unfamiliar visitors. They begin preparing the area for healing. New cells are guided to the site. Tissue begins to regrow. And as the danger passes, the signals begin to fade. The heat softens. The swelling goes down. The body remembers what has happened and slowly returns to its rhythm. Sometimes inflammation happens without an obvious injury. A cold in your throat. A quiet irritation in your joints. A reaction to a hidden allergen. The immune system is always paying attention, and inflammation is its way of making space, of saying, something here needs to be addressed. Let us focus. But there is a balance to be kept. In a healthy body, inflammation comes and goes like weather. A sudden storm, followed by clear skies. It lasts only as long as it is needed. The signals that call for help are matched by signals that ask for calm, and when the balance holds, healing follows. The trouble begins when the storm does not pass, when the immune system stays too alert for too long, when inflammation becomes constant even when there is no clear threat. This can happen in autoimmune conditions. It can happen when stress stays high. It can happen when the immune system becomes uncertain. And when it does, the body begins to feel tired, worn down, as if it has been running without rest. But even then, the answer is not war. It is not to silence the immune system completely. The answer is in restoration, in reminding the body that it is safe, that the fires can burn low again, that the signals can soften. This is why rest matters. Why food and sleep and quiet all hold power. They help the immune system find its footing again. They help it remember what is needed and what is not. As you lie here now, in the hush of your own breath, know that if there is inflammation in your body, it is not the enemy. It is a sign of care, a sign that your immune system has noticed, that it is trying to help, and with time and stillness and kindness, it can find its way back to balance. Let your body listen to the silence now. Let it feel that there is no rush, no alarm. The healing can happen slowly, like a forest growing new leaves, like soft rain after fire. Inflammation is not chaos, it is attention, and it will pass. You are already on your way back to calm. There is wisdom not only in remembering but in knowing when to forget. The immune system, for all its skill in recognizing threats and remembering past invaders, also spends a great deal of its time doing the opposite. It watches, It listens, and then it chooses to do nothing at all. This is not neglect. This is tolerance, a quiet, thoughtful decision to allow certain things to exist without reaction, a choice to leave the world as it is. Every day, your immune system is exposed to countless possibilities: molecules from food, proteins from your own tissues, friendly microbes that live in your gut, bits of pollen, breath from a breeze. If your immune system responded to all of it, your body would be caught in a storm of endless defense. So instead, it learns to recognize what is harmless. And once it knows, it learns to let go. This letting go is not passive. It is not a mistake or an oversight. It is an active process. During the earliest days of life, as your immune system first begins to take shape, it is introduced to the patterns that belong to you. Cells in the thymus test young T cells, asking them again and again whether they recognize self. If a cell reacts too strongly to what is normal, it is removed. Only those who can remain calm in the presence of your own body are allowed to stay, and even after that early education, the immune system continues to practice tolerance throughout life. It adjusts, it refines. It learns the local dialect of your body's tissues, the rhythms of your microbiome, the chemical traces of the foods you love. It sees these things every day and gently decides not to react. It creates a kind of peace, not through absence, but through restraint. Sometimes this tolerance can go too far. A dangerous cell may be missed. A tumor may grow unnoticed, but most of the time, it is this ability to forget, to turn away from false alarms, that keeps you well. It prevents unnecessary inflammation. It allows your body to function without interruption. It lets you live without fear of your own defenses. In autoimmune conditions, this balance is shaken. The immune system forgets how to forget. It becomes suspicious of things it once accepted. It begins to remember what should have remained familiar. And in allergies, the opposite occurs. The immune system remembers a harmless substance too clearly, too strongly. Both are examples of memory misused. But in a healthy system, tolerance flows like a soft wind through the body. It keeps the peace. It prevents overreaction. It holds back the urge to defend when no defense is needed. And it is not static. It changes with your environment, your age, your experiences. Your immune system learns not only what to fear, but also what to accept. As you rest tonight, that balance continues quietly inside you. Your immune system is still listening, still observing, but it is also choosing. With each passing moment, it decides what is worth remembering and what can be safely forgotten. You do not feel these decisions, but they shape your life in every breath and every heartbeat. Let that thought settle into you now, that forgetting can be wise, that not every response must be loud or visible. That peace is not the absence of action, but the result of deep understanding. Your immune system knows this, and as you drift deeper into sleep, it continues to choose the path of least resistance, the softest response, the quietest calm. It does not always speak. Sometimes it simply knows when to let go. As time moves forward, so does your body. The cells that once rushed forward with youthful certainty begin to change. They move a little slower, they take longer to decide. The immune system, like the rest of you, begins to age. But aging is not a collapse. It is not a sudden silence. It is more like a soft fading of certain notes in a long and beautiful song, a shift in tempo, a quieting of sound. When you are young, your immune system is bold. It reacts quickly. It tries to learn everything. It responds to almost anything that seems unfamiliar, but over time, it begins to grow more selective. It no longer trains as many new cells. The thymus, once full and active, slowly shrinks and becomes quiet. Fewer new T cells are made. The library of possibilities does not expand the way it once did. And yet, there is still wisdom. The cells that remain carry memories from years of experience. They have seen many intruders and learned which responses are useful. They are not as quick, perhaps, but they are thoughtful. They respond with care rather than urgency, like an elder who does not speak unless there is something important to say. Other parts of the immune system also begin to shift. Some cells may become tired. Some signals may take longer to arrive. Inflammation may linger after it is no longer needed. But even this is not a failure. It is the body adjusting to a longer story, a rhythm that changes with time. There is still protection, still response, still memory. It just looks different. The immune system begins to rely more on what it has learned and less on what it must discover. In this way, aging can feel quieter, but it is not less capable. It is just slower to rise, slower to retreat, slower in its dance. This is why older adults may feel the effects of illness more deeply, why a cold may take longer to leave, why a small infection may ask more energy from the body. The immune system is still working. It simply asks for more time, and in return, it gives a kind of gentle persistence. It does not burn out. It endures. Vaccines may need to be renewed more often. Rest becomes more important. So does nourishment. So does sleep. These things do not replace the immune system. They support it. They remind it that it is not alone in its work, that even as it changes, it is still held by the choices you make every day. The immune system listens to your life, even more closely as it grows older. There is something beautiful in this, the way the immune system reflects the soul, softer with time, less reactive, more measured, more focused on what matters. It is not the same as it was in youth, but it is still yours, still doing what it has always done, still trying to keep you safe, even in its quiet way. Tonight, as your body prepares for sleep and the world outside fades, your immune system is still moving. Not in a hurry, not with force, but with the steady care of something that has been with you since the beginning. It remembers the fevers and the cuts and the victories. It remembers what you have survived. It carries those memories gently, like folded letters tucked away in a drawer. Let that bring comfort as you rest. Aging does not mean losing your defenses. It means growing into a new kind of strength. A quieter one, a wiser one, and your immune system, still listening, still responding, will be there with you for as long as it can in the soft background of every breath. There are parts of you that you may never see, not in a mirror, not in a scan, not even in a dream, but they are there, watching, listening, carrying out a quiet choreography every moment of your life. The immune system is not a single organ or a straight line. It is not just a defense. It is a secret life that unfolds beneath your skin. A life of recognition, a life of memory, a life of choices made in silence. From the surface of your skin to the marrow of your bones, the immune system weaves through you like a soft web. It touches everything but leaves no mark unless it must. It speaks in molecules. It remembers in fragments. It acts without noise. And it does all this for one simple reason: to keep you whole. It is easy to imagine the immune system as something that only appears during illness, something that fights when you are under attack. But it is more than that. It is always present, always moving. It is in your tears, in the lining of your lungs, in the shadows of your gut. It stands at every threshold of your body like a gentle doorkeeper, asking quietly with each new visitor, "Do you belong here?" And it rarely asks for your attention. When it works well, you feel nothing at all. No alarm, no warning, only the soft forward motion of your days. It lets you forget how many decisions it makes for you, how many threats it clears before you ever notice, how many times it protects without praise. Sometimes it gets things wrong, sometimes it overreacts. Sometimes it forgets what to ignore or remembers something too sharply. But even then, it is trying, it is adjusting, it is learning. Because the immune system is not just a protector, it is a learner, a thinker, a quiet companion built to grow alongside you. Over time, its rhythms change. It becomes slower in some places and sharper in others. It evolves with every breath you take and every microbe you meet. And still, it continues. It does not stop, even as you rest, even as you sleep, especially when the world is quiet. The secret life of your immune system is not loud or obvious. It is not a drama. It is not a battle. It is more like a relationship, a dialogue between the world and the self. A balance between caution and trust, a presence that knows when to speak and when to simply observe. Tonight, it is still with you, in the soft rhythm of your blood, in the way your breath moves without effort, in the stillness behind your closed eyes. The cells are not racing now. They are resting too, moving through their patterns, checking in, responding only when needed. You may never know the names of most of them. You may never feel their work, but they are with you, just the same. Let that thought hold you as sleep begins to settle. You are not alone in your body. You are not unguarded. You are wrapped in a quiet network of care, of listening, of steady presence. And this system, this secret guardian, will stay with you for as long as you are here. Not because it must, but because that is what it was made to do. You do not need to think about it. You do not need to ask. Just breathe. Just rest. The immune system knows the way. It has always known. And now, as your thoughts grow softer and your body sinks deeper into stillness, it continues its quiet life beneath the surface. Always there, always listening, always yours. And so, as you rest tonight and let your thoughts drift gently away, remember that even in stillness, something within you is always listening, always learning, always keeping watch. Your immune system doesn't shout, it doesn't seek credit, it simply tends the garden of your body day and night, like a quiet friend who never leaves. If this journey soothed your mind or sparked a little wonder, a soft like and a gentle subscription would mean the world. And if you're still awake, let me know in the comments what part of your immune system you'll be dreaming about. Sleep well, curious soul, and may your dreams be full of soft cells and secret strength.